bold. Okay, so Beth sent me some VODs to look over. I've been looking at them a little bit, but I think the biggest thing that could be worked on is just a little bit of comp knowledge. Not I wouldn't say not necessarily knowledge, but just like trying to get some synergies. So like, first off, on this defense right now, you've got a couple of characters that kind of, at least in my opinion, look a little bit more like they just don't really fit too well with what you're wanting to run. And so like, I would say the Mercy is fine with the Hanzo Ball. Diva's there as well, which Diva is fine. The reason why a lot of people have been running like hybrids as opposed to like with Diva, or not with Diva, but like with like Sigmas and Hogs lately, is because it's a lot easier to hold some pressure, like in the front line. So this is kind of, your tanks are looking to be like hard committing aggressive dives, but then your DPS, mostly the Torb, is like looking for like slow, drawn out engages. I would probably say the Torb and the Moira and maybe the Diva could be swapped in this comp to make it like a little bit more like flow, because like the Moira is not gonna be necessarily able to heal the Diva, or they'll be able to heal the Diva but not really the ball, and then the DPS when they're there, but then you've got a Mercy for that. So it's not saying that Moira is a horrible pick, but it's just going to be harder to get value. Same thing with Torb, because I mean, double projectile is fine, but like with the Torb Hanzo, but like I think it's just a little bit tougher unless you're like, I guess the Torb will be good against a lot of their comp, but you'll just get destroyed by Widow, and then Zen, I'd say, probably will do a lot of work against you. So like, if I were to change a couple of things, I would say the Diva either commit to a full dive and swap the ball to a Winston and have some sort of flanker instead of the Torb, and maybe like the Sniper Hanzo is good, but like I think Widow v Hanzo is kind of a tough matchup, but if you're winning it, obviously stay Hanzo. But I think if you're running ball, you need to be running a flanker with it, because the way that the comp, at least the comp that was most recently meta before the newest patch updates, was a lot of ball with Tracer, and that's because ball and Tracer kind of went off and did their own thing, and they would focus their own targets, while the rest of the Sigma, Briggs, and Echo, or Ash, or whoever else was there would do their own thing. So that's where it gets a lot of value. So like right now, I'm going to see like your ball, the only one who can really super follow up with your ball is your Diva, and that's committing quite a bit, especially when you don't have the heal heal ability to go with the Diva, because a Mercy to fly in is kind of rough when you probably want to sit back and pocket DPS. So that's what I see like right off the bat. Like if you were to swap to a flanker instead of the Torb, to a Winston, or to a Winston instead of the ball with some sort of other flanker, honestly, and then like Ana instead of the Moira, or even Zen instead of the Moira. I remember later in the VOD you guys run some Lucio Mercy, and the reason why that works actually is a lot to do with the fact that the Lucio gets like quite a bit of value, as well as like, or like with the comp, because you're able to do a lot more damage and get in and get out, and you can also just like have amp heals. So as you're seeing right now, it's like Yeti goes in, has to go out. There's not really a lot of follow-up damage, especially because there was like, you see how their balls coming in and slamming, and then their Tracers like trying to follow up on those kills. Like that's the way that this comp should be played, pretty much. It's like the flanker is pretty necessary if you're running a ball, I would say, like a Tracer, a Sombra,
Can you
Reaper
run
to
like
some degree.
can you run like a Doomfist as a flanker?
Yeah, the only problem is so Doomfist does a lot better. Like you have to. The only thing that I would say with Doomfist is you have to be a little bit more coordinated with a Doomfist, so it's a little bit tougher to run. But I know Johnny's a good Doomfist, so like you guys can run that and just work on it from there. Because Doomfist needs to engage with one ability, use an ability to kill, and get out with an ability, or some formation of that. So your ball engages have to be crisp and clean with the Doom Fist for it to get a bunch of value, or your ball goes in for a slam, does a bit of damage, and then your Doom engages. Like it has to be, one of them has to be following up on the other's damage, so it requires a bit of synergy. So yes, you can run that. I would just say if you do run that, don't expect perfect results right off the bat. It'll take some synergy, which you guys are a young team, so synergies take a lot of time to build within a team. So yeah, you swap to the Doom here, so then the comp gets a little bit better with that. I think Lemon swaps to a Junk here off of the Torb, which I'd say honestly, Lemon with here, you could just go to Reaper or something. I think if you were to have gone to Reaper, crap, I don't know what I'm hitting, and Johnny were to have stayed on Widow to try to counteract the, or not Widow, Hanzo to counteract the Widow, you guys would have had a lot of damage, or not damage, but a lot of good like synergy and follow up there. Just someone to be with the ball, and then also, I think the D.Va's tough in this scenario in general, just because D.Va's a lot harder of a pick because you can't really follow up with a ball too easily, because ball engages are not as predictable. It's like, yeah, so you try to go in with the ball here, and then it's like, it's just kind of like a little bit spread, and so it's tough to play because you've got a lot of, like, D.Va, for having boosters, she's pretty immobile compared to Brawl, which is why a lot of people opt for Sigma, Hog, Zarya stuff, because they just they don't care about being mobile, they care about providing some sort of pressure elsewhere. Like a Sigma does a lot of help for the front line, as Zarya can help a ball even without being with him, and Hog does a lot of damage on his own. So it's like more of just like rotating pick comp as opposed to anything too crazy. So it's like, yeah, so there's a lot of tough engages here because the pacing is just really tough with Ball D.Va. So I'd say where this comp's at, like, yeah, it's hard to play in general. So just be thinking about like who your primary playmaker is going to be. Like in a ball comp, your ball is going to be the playmaker as far as going in on engages. You have to make sure at least one person can follow up with them. So just keep that in mind, like one DPS preferably. That could even be an Echo, honestly. Like Echo's kind of a soft flanker, like adds a lot of flank pressure without being on the flank, just because of like different angles and whatnot. But I see a lot of like counters like to a lot of different things on this team. Like Doom is really hard to run into a Zen if a Zen is smart. Like if a Zen has good positioning, the Doom shouldn't be able to touch him, and you should get discorded and destroyed. So it's I see the Zen being able to do a lot of work based upon running Ball, Doomfist, D.Va, and Junk too, because he can outpoke a Junk a little bit. So based upon your comp, this Zen should be putting in a lot of work, which I believe he is.
Their Zen was probably their best player.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say like, I would say that he probably had the best performance in the scrim, maybe not the best player, because honestly what I'm seeing is your team is very susceptible to being good against, or good for Zen to go into. Like a Tracer just destroys Zen. Like a Zen, if he hits his shots, yes, will do a lot, but yeah, so now you're seeing again it's hard to keep up with the pace of the ball, so just swap instead to something that doesn't need to keep the pace. So, and I'm saying that about like you keep one DPS to keep the pace with them, and then so like the Junk, I don't think the Junk would be that bad of a pick if your D.Va was on Sigma, Zarya, Hog, something in that wheelhouse. I just think because it's like you don't really have someone to play with. There's no shield or direct tank to kind of like absorb, because Diva takes a lot of poke, and she can negate a bit, but just not as much as like a Sigma or Hog and stuff. So I probably would have swapped. I liked the swap to the Ana as far as being able to heal both of your tanks. I know Asterisk's a good Lucio, so Lucio would have worked probably better than the Moira here, just in general, like as far as like generating picks and like, because your Moira won't be able to do too much healing with this comp in general. Like, no matter how good you are, you wouldn't be able to do too much. Not as much as Lucio, especially because you just like frag people. But this is a stall fight. I don't think you win this.
We saw him for a while, but no.
Yeah, stalls are good. So this is already a better comp in general. There's some things that I would say that could make it a little bit more optimal, but you have Monkey Diva, so those two pair well because they're on the same pace, they're on their same cooldown rotations. You know, you jump in booster to go in or out. Same thing, like a Doomfist plays a lot better with a monkey than he does with a ball because of his ability rotations tend to match up better with a Winston, and I mean also same with a Reaper. A Reaper is a good flanker to have. So like, and then the only thing I'm seeing is I would maybe swap Mercy for Ana here, because they're not really going to do too much like damage boost wise. You're going to be able to stay alive and you're not going to be punished too much by flankers, so that's good. So like, it's kind of a side of two, like it's two sides of the same coin. Like, you could probably do a lot to help. You could make a lot of plays with Nano, but you are susceptible to flanks, and so your team has to be aware of that. So if you're like, you're going for, I'm assuming aggro dives here, which Mercy's good for. You can damage boost Winston, get some cleave. He farms primal really fast. Yeah, so dive's fun. I love dive. Monkey's my favorite tank to play, so yeah, I was just say don't commit too much on a ball here. That's the only like little micro thing. The Lemon goes in and gets a pick, which is fine, but the team wasn't at the same pace, so it ends up being a bit. It's like you basically that'll come with time, but it's just engaging at the same time as your team. I'd say peeling for a tracer is good, but this is excessive. You don't need to chase her around the map, even with jumps and speeds and stuff. Just go for targets you can kill. Just destroy their Zen, destroy their Mercy, destroy their Kree, and Sig too. I'd say you win a tracer battle as soon as you get the tracer to leave, and also your backline's not susceptible to being dived. No one on your team is susceptible to being dived, so you don't need to worry about the tracer as much. It's more of you go, you give her a little bit of attention, you force recall, potentially you force recall, and then you go in and do your own thing. Your comp will lose in a slow fight against theirs. So yeah, we're in together. The tanks are together, which is really good. And like I said, that makes it's a lot easier for your tanks to play together with a Winston as opposed to a ball when you're running a Diva as well. This fight goes on a lot longer than I think it should, but it should have been out probably 30 seconds ago and just regrouping, but that's nitpicky, and that will come with time. So yeah, you guys are spending a lot of time down in this trough. You don't need to, you just walk up the stairs and take this high ground here. You don't need to hard engage every time you take a high ground. You can just like walk on in like you're like a Reinhardt and just run them over and then use your jump to get out, or to finish off a kill with a little bit of burst damage. Just S jump and burst damage. But that will come with a little bit more practice. I think the biggest thing that I see, and I am I'm not a good monkey player, but I always try to use cooldowns as little as possible. So just if like I know Yeti's really good Rhine player, so Yeti, if you're watching the VOD, play monkey a little bit more like Reinhardt, and you'll probably see a lot of success, and he'll be a lot more fun too. Because like right here, yeah, just all reset high ground. Boom, take this. This is free space right now. Going underground. Force cart. One person can force cart. Everyone else go elsewhere.
Oh, look who decided to show up.
Sup, Bog?
Hey.
Yeah, so it's like this comp, basically the reason why you guys are losing fights is just like being on different pages, but that's to be expected. So this is running hard aggro dives is really hard for any team, especially new teams, which is why I'd suggest running Winston Zarya, Reaper Sombra, Reaper Doom would work. I think Reaper a lot would be pretty good, and then Lucio Moira can work with that. Lucio Ana. It just depends on how survivable the Ana will be, and then you basically, I think if you guys just play comps like it's Rhine Zarya, but you just have a monkey instead of a Rhine, you guys will play a lot. You'll dominate a lot of teams, except for like on the obvious Rhine maps that just play Rhine. It's it's good peel, but this is what I'm talking about, where she's already forced recall, so even if you get this kill, it's a little it's just a lot of time where you could be setting up and getting ready with your team, because there's no one that's really going to get punished by a tree.
Coveted Lucio final blow.
I get too Reddity.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean it happens. I asked Beth, I'm a Reddit Lucio. She gets pissed at me every time we play together. But this is good. You're holding space. I like the D.Va being on cart because D.Va can survive a long time without needing to get peeled for, and then can go do that shit, which is good. That's a good tank. But yeah, so yeah, once again, it's like this is a pretty reasonable comp. Maybe one change and they would be better, but it's mostly the reason why you guys aren't winning fights on this is just a lack of playtime together. And I mean, that's nothing really to worry about. I can coach each one of these fights being like, well, make sure you do this, and this, but that's too much to think about. Just worry about playing together, or playing with then in a few weeks after a bunch of scrims and playing comp together. That shit'll start clicking, and it doesn't really matter. Because your guys' first engages are always really, really good, and then it's like, it goes on to like the second one, people get a little bit sidetracked a lot. Which, said, is just, right now, boom, everyone's on a different target. That'll come with time. You guys win it because you guys are cracked, but, you know. Nothing to scoff at. I'd say just keep at the least part of your mind about, like, don't worry about what's meta. Don't worry about little baby synergies. I would say just try to make sure that every piece of your comp makes sense with everything.
We're gold. Meta doesn't really apply to us unless we're good at it.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't. A lot of, like, I think people are playing Ball, Echo, Tracer, Brig Zen right now.
We've been running into that a lot.
But yeah, so like that's what a lot of people are running. It's shitty. It sucks. That comp is one of the hardest comps to run because, like I said, it requires two separate moving coordinated pieces, where the Ball and the Tracer have to be on the same page for it to work. And then the rest of the team has to be on their own same page. but it's different pages, so it's just really shitty and really hard to run. So I wouldn't try attacking that comp. But like, just think about like when you swap to a character, think about like, does this make sense? Like, if you were to have a Kree right now, it wouldn't really make sense because you can't engage with anything. You wouldn't be helping peel anyone. If you were to have a May, it wouldn't make sense. Junkrat doesn't like make sense. It's like because these are all slow play characters, but like May would make sense if you swapped the Diva to Azaria and the Mercy to Anana, and then all of a sudden a May would make sense because you're playing it more like a Rhyme Brawl but with a Winston. So I know it's pretty hard. I mean, it takes a lot to learn. I've played the game just a disgusting amount across all my accounts, and I've watched so much that like I have an okay understanding, but still not even like that good of an understanding, to be completely honest. So
He would have capped if not for that immort. That ball was dead. Oh my! He had a sliver HP and then went saved him.
Honestly, Yojimbo is their best player. Like, he's so good.
That was insane.
But yeah, so that's the end of the map. So yeah, just focus on making sure that when you make a hero pick, that it'll synergize well with the other ones. Like, make sure that it's like, oh, if everyone's kind of running super aggro, you don't want to play something that's super slow, unless the only exception to that is a sniper, because snipers are just good. But I would say like, if you guys wanted to try to run it, I would say double bubble, and you guys would look like it would probably work to your strengths quite a bit, because it just is a pretty predictable slow brawl comp. You play it like a brawl comp. You can run Lucio more. I said Lucio Ana, but that's just because I like Ana. But yeah, no. I think if you guys want you should try this comp. I think you should try double bubble with either Reaper, Sombra, some sort of brawl. Just try to make it look like a brawl, unless it's like a super spaced out map. And it should be pretty good, but like, run whatever you want. It's gold plat.
Just
Comp
make sure
doesn't
whatever
even
we're...
matter until you hit Owl, to be completely honest. So
Fair enough.